Howdy, everybody, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm your host and GM, Mitch Brewster, and today we're here with a little pre-season announcement as we lead into Season 2 of the show. With me today, I've got Pete Loftus.
Hello, ahoy, yo-ho-ho as it were, as we set sail to the wild sea.
I've got young Malcolm Hall here with me as well.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Not with us, but manning the spectral sails of a Flying Dutchman in faraway seas, of course, our regular contributor, Timothy Mans. Not here with us, but you will hear him coming up soon. He's not gone forever, merely temporarily exiled.
He's doing his real job of being the lady on the prow on the boat. That's not fun.
It was a botched keel hauling, and he's stuck there.
And if you're hearing this, you're probably wondering what we've been up to. We've been hard at work in the stew, cooking in the stew on some new stuff coming out, and we wanted to take a minute to just talk a little bit about what's coming next. As I'm sure you know, Risky Standard has been largely science fiction to date. We produced Season 1, Notes on the Ember Conflict, exploring warring factions in an endless game of capital on an evolving desert planet. And following that, a mini-sode tie-in to Season 1 with the Division of Silent Accords. But for our formal Season 2 and our next seasonal campaign, we wanted to try something a little different, stepping away from long-form narrative and into something more episodic.
Yeah, and I think we've already said this on the feed, but I guess it's worth reiterating, restating here. If you are just joining us, or if you've forgotten while drifting through the sands of time, for Season 2 of Risky Standard, we are going to be playing a different game from Season 1. We are going to be picking up a game called The Wild Sea by Felix Isaacs, which is published by MythWorks. And The Wild Sea is a weird fantasy tabletop RPG of sailing and discovery set on a verdant treetop sea. Highlighting here, I think, weird fantasy as opposed to science fiction, as you said, which we've done before, but capitalizing the W in weird here, playing with weird fiction magic, but something less elves and orcs and more sentient, shape-shifting plants, living storms, ships sailing a treetop sea, pulled along by chainsaw bites.
You know, and I say this all the time, but we had to start the podcast because Star Wars is bad now. And I think part of that is the genre gets so boring and sort of tread over that we're always trying to bend it a little bit. And I feel like Wild Sea is a really good kind of something familiar in the age of sail and high seas adventure mixed with the unexpected. So there's no water, it's just trees.
And also, I want to say, if you are just hopping onto the podcast because you're a Wild Sea fan and you dislike sci-fi, stick around. I hope you like what you hear. Maybe we could bring you back on board with sci-fi. Now that, like Pete said, Star Wars has ruined it for everyone. And it's just kind of...
With the exception of Andor, which is good.
Yeah.
I think, we talked about the pitch for this season, at least my pitch for this season to you guys, and the one we've tried to maintain as we've recorded these first handful of episodes. Pulpy, episodic adventure. With some light horror elements. It is seafaring adventures, following a ship that is on a journey of discovery and exploration.
Despite saying all that shit about how this is not science fiction, big pull for me is Star Trek, the original series. But more in the sense of going to a faraway destination that's strange and unusual and finding the familiar.
We also wanted something to be more lighthearted. I think the first season pretty heavy, touched on some pretty heavy themes of trauma and war and violence. And this is going to be more I always like to think of it as sort of like a children's storybook, Yeah,
a little more warm and snuggly. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about references and pulls for this season. For me, anyway, Redwall is there for sure. But I think one big difference in the Wild Sea is that instead of rabbits and squirrels and badgers, we've got like bugs and moths and bees and spiders and all kinds of stuff like that. We've come up with some really fun characters. I think this will be coming out just as we're about to launch the Patreon as well, which includes some bonus feeds. Mitch and Tim and Malcolm and I spent a couple of really fun sessions building out this colorful and strange world with lots of interesting characters. So we'll be releasing some of that soon. I'm excited to share what we've come up with. But I think some of the... Oh, go ahead.
Good. I was say also the bonus episode is going to be, or the bonus episode feed on the Patreon is going to be a place for us to have a chance to play one-offs and kind of experiment with some of the games that we are trying out. Play some games that maybe don't fit in the course of a usual season.
Which I would say arguably Wild Sea's kind of one that wouldn't normally fit the mold for me, but I think mechanically it's got a lot of really interesting stuff going on. I know we've got Risky Standard right in the top line. Sounds like it's all Forged in the Dark, but I think MythWorks has done a really interesting job of evolving what we liked about Forged in the Dark games into something new and, you know, drawing on a lot of what makes those games special, but taking it in its own direction.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Wild Words engine that Felix has produced in the Wild Sea, which he's also using for some other games that are coming out now that look really interesting. Pico amongst them. If you're really looking for like a cute little bug adventure game, I think it's another one to keep your eyes on. But it does a lot of really cool and exciting things with philosophy and structure of Forged in the Dark rules while incorporating narrative elements from some other games, like Heart, the City Beneath especially, that I think creates some of the most interesting interactions I have seen in a role-playing game where mechanics and fiction are flowing back and forth and kind of influencing each other, which to me was like the reason Forged in the Dark was so interesting to begin with. And this feels like a clear evolution of all of that.
And from my side, I think what I really like about, you know, where Forged in the Dark has a really great system for like doing action and maybe, you know, pulling off some big, heroic, violent moments. Wild Sea looks at those same high impact moments, but around cooking or growing or building or rebuilding something. And I think some of the bigger themes for me that keep coming back up are playing with this idea of rediscovery or reconstruction of society, and maybe that post-apocalyptic stage where things start looking rosy again.
I think Felix has said this about the game, something to the idea of like, what if the world ended and the thing that came after was a little bit better? And I think that's something that I've been thinking about a lot as we have been playing and kind of charting out the map for season 2. We're still political. We're still thinking about it. I mean,
we say it every season. It's not going to be a revolution thing. We're not going to become charming anti-heroes. And, you know, as the Great Wheel turns, it seems like things might be lining up in that direction. But, you know, I think to put it concisely, this season is about forging new binds that tie across distance and culture, about accepting the strange and the weird and finding commonplace even when you don't expect it. You know, and I think in a nutshell, you could think of it as it's kind of serialized adventure fiction with a healthy dose of high fantasy and high strangeness.
All that said, you can find the start of season 2 and our adventures on the Wild Sea coming up on Thursday, November 6th, where we'll be releasing those. It will also be the same day we're launching the Patreon. And so if you're a real hardcore completionist, you can get in there on the bonus episode and hear us kind of lay the groundwork for the adventures to come. And also, that evening, starting at 8 p.m., once again, Thursday, November 6th, we're going to be combining our new nautical adventures with a little public service campaign as we hold a stream to get the word out there for National Shipwreck Awareness Month and the debut of Risky Standards Season 2.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be setting the right intentions for avoiding shipwrecks in our daily lives. We'll be kind of covering both do's and don'ts as far as getting shipwrecked is concerned. I think it's going to be great, and it'll be a nice way to set the tone for the next couple months on our high seas adventure.
You can find us there on youtube.com/Risky Standard or at twitch.tv/Risky Standard. Question mark?
It's twitch.tv Risky Standard Pod.
Risky Standard Pod. You can find us there, streaming, raising awareness about National Shipwreck Awareness Month. But we're also on there shooting to be monthly. Of course, we're heading into the high holidays, so we'll see how that all goes. But summer picnic, we did vacation plans. What else have we done?
Oh, previously? Well, we've covered how to have a great vacation. We've covered just generally hanging out. We're hanging out, trying to make each other laugh, usually picking a topic, pulling on some strings there, seeing what comes to the surface. But most importantly, the Risky Standard hotline is open. If you or someone you love has been in a shipwreck, we want to hear from you. Call 321-430-RISK. That's 321-430-7475. Leave a message, seaworthy inquiries answered live on air.
Thank you to everyone who has listened to the show so far, who supported us, and welcome to any new potential listeners. As we head out onto the high canopy of the wild sea, where we'll follow the adventures of a little ship called the Vertigale as it sets out on a voyage of discovery and exploration under the auspice of its captain, Claremont Montclair, and its ragtag crew of archonautics, word bearers, and dredgers, searching for something out on the wild sea. Thanks again. See you guys on Thursday.
Hop to it. Stay tuned, risk takers.